מאמין, אני מאמין, אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח, אני מאמין, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח, אני מאמין. Ay, 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 naray, ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. אני מאמין, אני מאמין. אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח, אני מאמין, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח, אני מאמין. יאי ניי ניי איי 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 Ay, 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 ay.
Boker Tov. Good morning. Normally, during the Yizkor service, I would be saying Chag Sameach or Good Yontif. This is the first Yizkor service of the year, and it usually takes place on the morning of Yom Kippur. But this year, because of the interesting and new ways in which we are doing our high holiday services, we are holding this service to allow everyone to attend on this morning. Kol Nidre is this evening. So I would say Boker Tov to you instead of Chag Sameach or Good Yontif or an easy fast. But we are beginning the high holidays and certainly beginning Yom Kippur a little bit earlier this year. So it's appropriate that we do Yizkor this morning. I know a lot of us have been thinking heavily about Teshuvah, thinking about return, thinking about the liturgy and what it all means. And so this morning we are blessed to have Rabbi Russell join us to lead us in song and to share with us some words of Torah as we contemplate all of those who we have lost during the year of 5780, as well as those who have left a mark on our lives. One of the beautiful things about the high holidays is the opportunity for us all to gather in the sanctuary and be together. and sit in the seats maybe where we sat next to our parents, maybe the seats that our parents sat in. And perhaps it brings back memories of being with loved ones, maybe the loved ones that we're remembering on this morning. So we don't have the opportunity to actually be physically in those seats. But Rabbi Russell and I hope that through this ritual and through this book, so I hope you have the chance to have gotten the book. It came in your High Holiday packets, but it's also found online if you would like to download it as a PDF. You can also do that on the website, bethshalomsf.org. And I want to begin, it contains the Psalms and the readings that are traditionally recited on this morning of Yizkor. And I'm going to begin on page 5, if you want to follow along with me. There is a time for everything, a time for all things under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to slay and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to wail and a time to dance, a time to scatter and a time to gather, a time to embrace and a time to shun embraces, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time for silence and a time for speech, a time for love and a time for hate, a time for war and a time for peace. As we turn now to Rabbi Amanda Russell, who will share some words of Torah as well as song.
Last week, just 10 days ago, Rabbi Ain and I prepared to lead the Erev Rosh Hashanah service in our sanctuary. We were ready, as we always are, with an outline, a general plan, a nigun before this reading, a reading after that psalm. Only this year there were theater lights shining brightly in our eyes, a soundboard in the back, 2 camera people directly in front of us, and a strict countdown for when we should begin. 5, 4, 3. It was unlike any experience I would have ever dreamt for prayer. I have prayed alone before, in the desert, in my home, on Masada. And as you know, I've been praying on the screen for many months now, and I actually have really come to peace with it. It feels like prayer, with many of you there, the Yartzites, the Misha Berach, even some call and responses and dancing on Shabbat, where when I see your faces, I can tell that you're with me. And theoretically, this experience wouldn't have been any different, but it was different. An empty room, no one in the hundreds of seats that surrounded me. It was a stark reminder of this time, an experience that gives you goosebumps or causes you to pause, because surely this cannot be real, and this is not how Rosh Hashanah is meant to be. And of course, I can recall so many beautiful memories in that space, celebrations of B'nai Mitzvah and weddings, remembering and honoring loved ones who have passed, holidays, Shabbatot, dancing with the Torah. But throughout this era of Rosh Hashanah service, I kept flashing to one moment in particular, Yizkor, last year during Sukkot. I began to sing Psalm 23. Adonai ro'i lo etsar. God is my shepherd, I shall not what? Binot sheyar bitzeni. God causes me to lie down in green pastures. And in the distance, I heard crying. I tried not to look up. I tried not to break my concentration or the beauty of the psalm. Al mei menuchot yenachaleni. God leads me beside still waters. It wasn't just crying that I heard anymore, it was wailing. My mind wandered a bit, and then my eyes began to wander as I tried to see if I could recognize the person in the room who was experiencing this kind of pain. The kind of pain that I've only heard one other time at a funeral. It was raw. I wished I could walk away from the bima and stand with him. Why is it a custom of Yizkor that we send everybody out of the room except for the mourners? I felt awful. He was all alone. But I continued to sing. Afterwards at Kiddush, a man approached me. It was him. I admit my stomach sank a little bit, wondering what he would say and wondering what on earth I would say back to him. He complimented me. He told me he had never heard that version of the psalm before, and he asked if I knew the composer. I did not off the top of my head, but I told him to give me his card and I would send it to him later. I asked him who he was remembering that morning. My daughter, he said. I asked him her name. He told me, tears in his eyes. I didn't know him. He was just passing through San Francisco for business and needed to say Yizkor. We exchanged a couple of emails after that day. For me to send him the music and for him to share about his daughter. A tragic accident. She was only 5. I didn't know the depth of that moment until last week. Last week when I stood in the sanctuary alone, readying myself to pray. For myself, for all of you. I didn't realize how holy that space truly is, how vulnerable each of us can be in our sanctuary. The power of being able to walk into a space that you've never been in before and weep as if you are crying into a loved one's shoulder. That is our sanctuary. That is our sacred space. Intellectually, I understand that. I've walked into synagogues all over the world and felt that feeling of home. And spiritually, I thought I understood it, but I didn't know. Not until I was standing there last week and I looked into the camera lens, looking deeply into that camera, hoping that on the other side, your eyes would be able to meet mine on whatever screen you were watching, and that somehow I could feel that we were praying together. For me, there were beautiful moments of prayer, melodies that made it feel like Rosh Hashanah, just like any other year, but it was hard to hold on to that mindset because as I looked around, it was just another loss, another reminder of separation and distance, even though I knew that in some way you were all there with me. The truth is, I swore to myself that I wouldn't talk about loss today. I know it's Yizkor and tonight is Yom Kippur, but I guess I thought we have all had enough heaviness this year, that we didn't need yet another reason to sit in our grief and remember our pain. And then I realized that it's not only grief that we are sitting with these days, that along with all of that heaviness is also the fact that we are still here, that we are still showing up for ourselves, our children, our parents, our friends, our work, our community, our city, and our country. And that showing up again and again, it's what some may call resistance. Resilience, something that may feel like the furthest thing from your mind these days, but it's there. And whether you think you have it or there have been moments in your life where you believe you've completely lost it, it is the one thing that we all have in common, built into our body, our mind, our heart, our blood, and our bones. And it is why I believe we are here this morning, not only to remember our loved ones, but to acknowledge that while they have passed, we are still here. And as we continue to experience loss after loss this year, some days I have asked myself, how much of this can our bodies contain? Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. Adonai gives and Adonai takes. But how much loss can our heart carry until it breaks open? How much can we hold and still be able to go on? Every person is different. And I admit not to having scientific evidence or a degree. I'm not a doctor or a psychologist, but the answer is we sure can carry a lot. So much more than we think we can. Most days we have gotten out of bed, we have moved our bodies, maybe gone to work, maybe fed the kids, gone on walks, called a friend or a loved one. We have watched the world turn, and we are here to continue to tell our story. Last week in my drash for the second day of Rosh Hashanah, I told a story of 2 rabbis, Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Elazar was sick, and Rabbi Yochanan went to visit him. When he entered the room, Rabbi Yochanan saw that Rabbi Elazar was crying, and he asked him a series of questions and gave Rabbi Elazar every reason not to cry. But finally, when he told Rabbi Yochanan why he was crying, that he was crying for the beauty and the loss in the world, Rabbi Yochanan couldn't help but shed a tear himself. They cried together for the loss of the beauty of the world and for the death that they would both eventually succumb to. In the next section of the story, Rabbi Yochanan asks, "Is your suffering dear to you?" Rabbi Elazar replies, "I welcome neither this suffering nor its reward." "No, of course I don't want to suffer," he says. "Who would want that?" Rabbi Yochanan tells Rabbi Elazar to give him his hand. Rabbi Elazar reaches out his hand, and Rabbi Yochanan lifts him up, restoring him to health. What we know about Rabbi Yochanan is that he buried 10 of his own children. Yet hardships led him on a path of becoming a healer for others. While carrying the weight of his own grief, he forged a path forward for himself. And if the Talmud doesn't do it for you, what better model of resilience than the giant we lost just before Rosh Hashanah last week? Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a small lady, 5'1" in height, but enormous in stature and impact in the world. She too suffered great losses in her life. Probably the greatest loss was of her mother, who died just before Ginsburg graduated high school. And despite hardship, she found passion in everything she did, from education to motherhood to advocacy and politics. This fire was ignited in her at a very young age. An article written in 2016 cites her frustration and the unfairness that she felt that boys could have a bar mitzvah, but there was nothing for her. Something that bothered her at her core. And in the same article, it cites a moving essay that she wrote in 1946 in her synagogue bulletin, just after World War II, when Ginsburg, Ruth Bader at the time, was only bat mitzvah age. She writes, "The war has left a bloody trail and many deep wounds not easily healed. Many people have been left with scars that take a long time to pass away. We must never forget the horrors which our brethren were subjected to in Bergen-Belsen and other Nazi concentration camps. Then too, we must try hard to understand that for the righteous people, hate and prejudice are neither good occupations nor fit companions. Yet dare we be at ease," she says. "We are part of a world whose unity has been almost completely shattered. No one can feel free from danger and destruction until the many torn threads of civilization are bound together again. There can be a happy world, and there will be once again," she writes, "when humankind creates a strong bond towards one another, a bond unbreakable by a studied prejudice or a passing circumstance." Years later, the Supreme Court became her sanctuary, the place that was built for her to do the work, the holy work that she was meant to do in the world. And that sanctuary was her final resting place. We all have pieces of this kind of fire and resilience in us. It may look different or happen on a smaller stage, but we have it too. And that man, whose tears I heard that morning during Yizkor, he had it too. And I must say, if you are out there in this virtual space, which I doubt that you are, I'm grateful for the lesson that you taught me, and may your daughter's memory be a blessing. I remember thinking I couldn't do it. If I were him, I couldn't move on. I know each of us in our own moments of loss have had that same feeling. And I admit not to know him, or what happened that morning, the days before, or the weeks and months after. It was such a brief moment in time. But I do know that that day, he showed up to a Jewish community that was not his own, to be with us in our sanctuary, to mourn his loss. Resilience got him on a plane to San Francisco, and resilience walked into that Yizkor service. And sanctuary, our holy space, held him as it has held so many of us time and time again. Grief and loss will never go away. Whether 97 happy years or a life cut short, canceled simchas and months apart from loved ones, it will leave a mark on our souls forever. But I am certain that we can hold it. And in the moments where it feels like too much, when you begin to crack, I hope that you will reach out a hand and ask to be lifted. It says in our Torah, "Va'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham." God told the people to build a sanctuary so that God could dwell among them. Please, God, return us to our sanctuary. And until then, continue to give us the strength that we need to make it to that moment. May the memories of our losses help strengthen us to reach the moments of blessing. And let us say, Amen. We continue now with Psalm 23 on page 7. Adonai roi lo echsar bino tesheyarbitzeni al mei menuchot yenachaleini nafshi yeshovev yancheni v'maglei tzedek yancheni v'maglei tzedek leman shemo gam kilech b'gates hamavet lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni taroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorerai tishanta v'shemen roshi kosi rivaya aktov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai kol yemei chayai v'shavti b'veit Adonai liorech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsar. Adonai roi lo echsar.
Shkoach. Thank you to Rabbi Russell for your every day that you share your beautiful voice and your wise words with us is a day of blessing. We turn now to page 8. Our generations are bound to each other as children now remember their parents, as we now remember our spouses and partners, as parents now remember their children. Memory conquers death's dominion as we now remember our brothers and sisters, grandparents and other relatives, friends and loved ones. We are grateful for the gift of their lives, and we are strengthened by the blessings which they have left us. Precious memories which comfort and sustain us as we recall them this day. Now on pages 9, 10 and 11. We have the Yizkor prayer for your grandparents, your relatives, in memory of your wife or your partner or your child, your parent. And I'm going to scroll through here in case you don't have the booklet with you as we take a moment for our silent Yizkor prayer. Exalted, compassionate God, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the souls of all our brethren, men, women, and children of the house of Israel, who were slaughtered and burned. May their memory endure, inspiring truth and loyalty in our lives. May their souls thus be bound up in the bond of life. May they rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. We lovingly recall the members of our community and our congregation who have passed away since we last gathered. They have a special place in our hearts. We pray this day that all who have sustained the loss of loved ones in this year now past be granted comfort and strength, as Rabbi Russell will now chant the El Malei Rachamim.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha, Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, B'ma'alat Kedoshim Utaharim, Kezohar Harakia Masirim, Et Nishmot Kol Eileh Shizkarnu Hayam Livracha, Shehalchu Le'olamam, Began Eden Tehe Menuchatam. Ana Barachamim, Hastireim Beseter, Kenafecha Le'olamim. Utzror Bitzror HaChayim Et Nishmotehem, Adonai Hu Nachalatam. V'yanuchu v'shalom al mishkevoteihem, v'nomar Amen.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the bereaved families of this congregation. Help all of us perpetuate the worldly values in the lives of those no longer with us, whose names we respectfully recall. Betty Jane Abrams, Ruthie Bronsnick, Edith Cohen, Judy Einzig, Tanya Epstein, Ethel Grushke, Gregory Jones, Kathleen Kerr, Shirley Kimmel, Marlene Levinson, Leonard Lewis, Elaine Dalphin Moscovich, Geula Shapiro, Gerald Strauss, Ruth Tepper, Croce Weil, John Wexelblatt, Roman Zilberman. May their memories endure as a blessing, and let us say, Amen. We turn now to the Mourner's Kaddish, which is found on page 11 and in the transliteration on page 12. At this point now, I'm going to stop the screen share and invite everyone to rise and to go into gallery mode. And I'm going to even invite all of those who want to unmute themselves, as I will lead us in the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal, Yikadash, Merabah, Kirute, V'yamlich Ma'ateh,
V'chayechon, v'mechon, Aye lechol Yisrael. V'zman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Ram, v'orach, Meo Maya, Barach, Abach, Bar, Yitadar, Mei de Kudusha, Brichu, Eila Minkol, V'Shalom, Tushbechata, V'Nechemata,
Damiran
Be'yama, V'imru, Amen, Yehi Shlama Rabbah,
Shlama
Rabbah
Min Shemayim,
Chaim
Kol Yisrael,
Yisrael v'Yimru
Aseh Shalom,
Aseh Shalom
Kuya
v'Imrama
Aseh Shalom,
Kuya Aseh
V'al Kol
Shalom
Yisrael.
V'al Kol Yisrael v'Imru Amen.
Amen. We're going to conclude in just a moment with a final song, but before we do, I just want to give everyone a little bit of an update on what to plan for over the next, 36 hours. So Kol Nidre will be live tonight. Myself and Rabbi Russell, as well as Ellen Ginsberg, will be in the sanctuary at Congregation Beth Shalom, and that will begin promptly at 5:30. That will include my Rosh Hashanah, my Yom Kippur, hopefully it's not the same, my Yom Kippur sermon, and it will end promptly before sundown. So you'll be able to join us if you want to go to our website, bethshalomsf.org, and you can share with anybody else who wants to join us for this Yom Kippur. We also have a late Kol Nidre service, which will be premiering live on our website at 8:15 this evening, as well as traditional services tomorrow, which is Yom Kippur Day, which will be premiering at 10:15 a.m., which will be the traditional service with myself and Rabbi Russell, as well as the Ne'ilah service, which will premiere at 6:15 p.m. tomorrow. We also have full audio, which you can download right now. If you don't want to go on the internet, you just want to watch our Kol Nidre and turn everything off, you can download full audio and you can hear the full day's services tomorrow, led by all of the leaders and familiar voices that you know, and that's all currently available on our website. And we also have more programming for you to help get you through this Yom Kippur. In addition to the 3 traditional services, we also have a soul music concluding service. We have a meditation Yom Kippur service, and we're thrilled to tell you that Ephraim Margolin has continued his tradition of giving a talk on Yom Kippur at Beit Shalom. This will be his 52nd consecutive Yom Kippur talk at Beit Shalom, and that is also currently available up on our website. So if you want to watch that today before sundown, you can do that as well. Also, we are going to Zoom. If you would like to join us for Havdalah tomorrow night for Havdalah and for Shofar. We're going to put out a Zoom link. Everybody can join us. You're going to have to bring your own food, though, for the break fast. But that will be available tomorrow at 7:30. And if people have been asking when should they light their yahrzeit candle, I would suggest that you light it this evening at 5:30 as we begin our Kol Nidre service. So I would suggest you light the candle at 5:30 this evening. And tomorrow is supposed to be a hot day. It might be a smoggy and a smoky day. So, I'll remind you this later, but no one is going to be there to tell you that you pushed yourself too hard. So try to pay attention to your body and remember that health and pikuach nefesh is the most important value. Rabbi Russell will now conclude with one final song.
Olam chesed yibanei, yadalai, yadanainai. Olam chesed yibanei, yananai, yananainai. Olam chesed yibanei, yananai, yananainai. Olam chesed yibanei, yananai, yananainai. And I will build this world from love. Yananai, yananainai. And you must build this world from love. Yananai, yananainai. And if we build this world from love, yananai, yananainai, then God will build this world from love. Yananai, yananainai. Olam chesed yibanei, 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 yananai, yananainai. Gemar Chatima Tova.
Gemara.
Chatima Tova. Yashar Koach.